Hey everyone, welcome to Taste Different Gaming Appetizers. What are we talking about this time? Well, the Xbox 360 is having a birthday, turning 18. But it's also losing. It's being told by Microsoft to go and find your own way. You know, you have to kick you out of the house. You got to go find your own way. And so on the July 29th of 2024, you will no longer be able to purchase games or DLC on the console, and the Microsoft Movie and TV app will stop working. Now, of course, any games or DLC that you own on those can be still played, of course, or if you have the disc, you can still pop them into your 360 and play them, and you can still re-download games. So if you have games bought on your 360, you can still go out and re-download those games. So you're not losing that ability, you're just losing the ability to go out to the store and buy games on the 360. Now, luckily in Microsoft's case, they did do that whole backwards compatibility thing a while back, and a lot of 360 games are backwards compatible on your Xbox Series X and S, so you can still go out and purchase the games on there, and you can still play those games. You know, any of the ones that are in the back compat list, which the list is pretty big. It's not every game on the 360, but it's a pretty good size list of games, right? So you still got that, but any games that are out on the 360, you have until July 29th of 2024 to go out and purchase anything additional that you want. If you still have an Xbox 360 and are still playing on that and still buying things on the store and stuff like that. You know, for me, I don't have a 360 anymore. Most of the games that I want to play, not all of them, but most of the games that I want to play are a part of the backwards compatibility, so I can just go out there and grab them. But, you know, there are a few games I'm sure that are not on the backwards compat that I would like to play. But I don't have a 360 at the moment. And even though I have a lot of the older consoles, I don't plan on getting a 360 anytime soon. So if I were to get another Xbox, it'd probably be an original Xbox. And then, you know, to get another one of those again and pop it in there, because that back compatibility list for the original Xbox is a lot smaller, and there's a lot of games on the original Xbox I'd like to play again. So namely, even though the game's not that great, Dino Crisis 3 that Shane got me for my birthday, that was very nice of him, that I'd been looking for forever. What's funny, Shane, is I went back to the store here the other day, and they had a copy of it sitting over in the Xbox 360 area, or regular Xbox area, which I was surprised. But I think they wanted a lot more, or they wanted quite a bit for it.
Yeah,
so
they can suck a butt.
Yeah.
Although you could have bought it for me. Although I did play the copy that I bought you for your birthday. I did play a bit of it before you wrapped.
Yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, I don't have a way to play it because I don't have an original Xbox, unfortunately.
Play tested it for you. Make sure it works.
Well, that's good. Make sure the disc works, because you never know. But, you know, if I were to my personally self, so, you know, it sucks to see stores close like this, but I mean, it's kind of expected. You know, we saw the Wii U and the 3DS stores for Nintendo close here recently. For Sony, the PSP store, I think, closed a while back, and they were going to close the PS3 store, but that got indefinitely delayed at the moment, right? Because of backlash. But at some point, they will close that off, right? They will stop, if they haven't already. Maybe I missed the news, but they will stop putting things out there on that store, and it is what it is, right? We'll still be able to play and download things. You can still do that on your Wii U and your 3DS, anything that you purchased. But again, if you don't have it, then you're SOL. So for anybody out there that does have a 360, you haven't from now until July 29th of next year to go out there and buy what you want and make sure you have it on your system before it all goes away on the store. But again, a lot of these games are on the backwards compat list, which is a pretty hefty list. Again, it's not everything, but it's got a considerable amount of games on there. But we'll go around and see what everybody thinks about this. Shane, what do you think about the 360 store shutting down?
Forgot it was open. Honestly, I don't have a 360 anymore either. I would love to have another one. But it sucks because there is still there are still quite a few cool games out there for the 360. Granted, it's 18 years old. You should have had that game by now. So if you still own your 360, you should have had it by now. But you can still, it's not like you're losing the games you've already purchased. According to, the article, that you will still be able to obviously keep re-downloading the games you already have, which is great. The 360, I never purchased. I don't think I ever purchased anything digitally through their store, far as a full game. I always bought discs at that time. I would install the disc because it just ran a little better. But I never bought anything digital. Might have maybe I picked up I think maybe I picked up the DLC for Alan Wake digitally. That might have been probably the only thing ever. So. But it sucks, especially if you're still playing and you're still using the 360, because it was a hell of a console. I red ringed with like 2 weeks after Halo came out, so that sucked. But Microsoft, they manned up, they took care of it, got me my console fixed and got it back. But it is what it is. I mean, time is fleeting. 18 years. There's a long time for that thing to be, open. Luckily, you can, still get quite a few of the good games backwards compatible. But most of those games in that digital store, I don't see, you can probably find a physical copy. So, and 360 games really aren't that expensive. It's not like you're looking at original Xbox or, PlayStation, original Nintendo. Those games are really expensive. The 360 games, you can pretty much get any of them for the cheap. So if you still have your 360, go that way. Plain and simple. But it is what it is. The Xbox One, it's dead. The original Xbox is dead. It's just circle of life. Now we're on the next shitty naming convention of Xbox, and one day this store will be transferred to a new store, then all this stuff will be null and void again. So, but at least you're not losing what you've purchased. That's what worries me to death about digital purchases of anything, especially games. Movies, I could almost care less because I'll watch them 3 or 4 times in a 5-year span, and I'll forget I owned a thing digitally. But games, I never forget. And I've got a huge digital collection now because everything I buy on Xbox is digital. That scares me that I'll lose it all one day. But at least for the 360, I don't have that worry. And if I want a 360, they're not. I don't think they're too terrible price now. I think you probably pick one up for $75 to $85. And then the games obviously aren't that expensive. So, but it sucks if you're still, holding on to your 360 for dear life. But unfortunately, I think the Netflix app quit working on that thing 15 years ago. So it's time to upgrade, guys. You're a couple generation behind. So what do you think, Pat? I don't think you don't even have a 360, do you?
No, I traded my 360 in for my Xbox One. And then, yeah.
So did many of us.
And I kind of wish I didn't. I enjoyed the 360 quite a bit. My biggest thing that I've read about this is that there are over 200, I think VGC had an article about 220 games that will be lost forever that were digital only releases on the 360 that you will never be able to get if you don't already have them. So I don't
remember that. I don't remember digital games being that big of a thing.
There's a list of 220 games that were released only digital on the console. And they have them all listed out, so, and there's a list in alphabetical order on BGC's, the videogamechronicles.com site. Things like Panzer General, NCAA Basketball March Madness Edition, Penny Arcade games, some Kinect games like Ping Pong and Puzzle Prize Driver, things like that. There's a whole list of games, 220 of them to be exact on this site, games that will be lost to time because they were never released physical, digital only copies. So this is kind of a blow to preservation of games then, right? If you're going to lose access to 220 of these games out of the whole, I think there's a list of 619 or something that were on the list overall. That's a good chunk that you're going to lose games. So that is, obviously if you purchase them, you'll be able to retain access to them, but that's attached to your account. If I ever wanted to go back and play one of these games and didn't have it, it will no longer be an option for me to ever obtain them. Somebody probably could have ripped them off and put them on a ROM somewhere or something like that. So, but there's no official way, no hard copy of anybody to be able to get a copy of these. So that's what worries me more than anything. I'm not a huge retro gamer. As I get older, I get more and more pangs of wanting to go play something super old. I was just sitting here the other day going, I need to build my TV stand for my TV that Shane gave me, because I can't put that on anything because it weighs more than a truck. And because I wanted to plug it in my N64. I'm like, you know what? I really want to play some Mario, Mario World, some Super Mario on there. And I'm like, I really want to play this. And then I want to play some Zelda 64, Ocarina of Time, or Majora's Mask. I really want to go back and play that. And but there are games that are going to be lost to time now that nobody else, if you don't already own it, will ever be able to play it. So this is one of those first era games that are going to be lost to time that will be gone forever. So this is kind of a slap in the face to game preservation. I don't know. I feel a little bit like, I'm not saying I would ever play any of these. So, it may not ever directly affect me, but who knows? Maybe 10 years from now or 20 years, I'd be like, oh yeah, I saw a cool video on YouTube about this game. And then I go and find out that it was a digital only release for the 360. How do I get, and now I can't over get this. Can I get it in a ROM? Maybe, maybe not. So what happens with this stuff now? I don't know. It's gone. Some of that stuff on the list too could possibly be on PC. I don't know. It was just a list of games that were only released digitally on that console. Does that mean it didn't come out on PC? No. I think there's probably some on that list if we go out and look that did. There might be a chance for it to get remastered, but to play it in its original 360, type frame, gone. As of next year, right? We still have almost just a little bit less than a year, like 11 months or something.
July.
Like that. 2024.
Yeah.
So
a lot of these are Kinect games that I never even heard of. And then
right.
there's some classic games in here. Double Dragon 2, Yar Kung Fu. I mean, games I honestly I never even thought about until I looked at this list.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, is that some of this stuff might be on other things like PC, but how many of these are on this list that don't have any other console? What I want to know is anything on the 360 was exclusive that we're actually, that list may be a little bit misleading too, right? Because just because it was digital only on the Xbox, does that not mean that it didn't come out on PlayStation or PC or something like that? Because I think a lot of those games, when I was looking through the list, I'm like, okay, the Abyss Odyssey, I know that was on PlayStation, or PC, and Darkstalkers Resurrection, that was on PlayStation. So, where is the game list of games that are going to be really lost to time is what I would like to see. How many of those 220 games are only out on Xbox 360? I don't know the answer to that. I don't have time to go through that 220 games list and make a list of my own. But, it is something to think about, that digital only games will go away when their storefront goes away. So how many games, because we have games now that are coming out that are digital only on all consoles, on PC. What happens when those stores shut down in 20 years from now and those games are no longer available? What happens to games in the next 5 or 10 years when disc is completely out the window? We've already heard there's plenty of game companies out there that are like, we just don't produce on a disc anymore. It's saving. They're basically raking in the money on not having to print a physical media. but keeping their games at $70 or whatever.
Mhm.
What happens in 10 years when Microsoft and Sony decide new console doesn't come with a disc slot at all? Everything has to be digital. What do we do? You're out. All of that.
You're just
You
screwed.
know?
I mean, I'm looking
Yeah.
at this list, and yeah, it kind of makes me sad that they are digital only. But a lot of them too, though, are just re-releases you can pick up on another on an older console, like ER Kung Fu. It was just ER Kung Fu, so
Right.
if you had the original Nintendo, you could play it. So,
Right. Yeah, exactly. But like, what about, like I said, like you said, some of this stuff is just re-release. So what is actually 360 only?
Those
you know.
Kinect games primarily, from what I could see. Loco
Right.
Cycle. Loco Cycle. I don't think that was Kinect, but yeah, there's there's some that are 360 specific, a lot of Kinect, and a lot of re-release. Track and Field. You know what? I think I did buy Track and Field digitally now that I think about it, because I used to love that game. Except for, I get freaking carpal tunnel syndrome tapping that AB.
Hopefully that list is much smaller, right? Hopefully that list of games that was exclusive for the 360 digital only is much smaller. Like I said, the 220 is just what's on that console. And I just spot checked, like 6 or 7 of them, and they were all on something else. So I did not spot check the Kinect version of them, because sometimes it's the same game that was released onto the console. It just has Kinect functions, right? So, so yeah, I mean, really, how many are we losing? But still, losing any game, if you were big into Xbox 360 and in the future you wanted to play one of these games on the 360 and you didn't already own it, you're hosed, right? If you go and if your kids decide one day they want to get a 360 to play some of the old games that Dad used to play or something, and they want to pick up one of those games, it's gone. They can't get it. It's unless you already had it. So that's my only qualm with it. Is the storefront's 18 years old. Microsoft has to pay to maintain it. But at some point, something has to be done about game preservation. Yeah. I think that if there's anything that's digital only, there needs to be like a national archive of video games or something where they're recorded and stay there, to where, somebody can go check it out or get the base code for the game or something if they wanted to. Once like a 20-year-old game, a company's probably still going to wants to make money on it, right? So that's where it becomes a problem. Like, I want to play this game, but I can't get it anywhere anymore. So how do I get to play this? You just don't. That's my biggest problem. Like, yes, I mean, one of my biggest problems is there's games that I want to play that came out on stuff long before I was big into gaming that cost $200 to buy and play. Well, I guess I'm never going to play those. But there are some digital ways to play those. And what I mean is buy ROMs and stuff like that may make it more affordable or something I can get closer to. So those are the options I have. But if they were digital only and lost to time, SOL. So I don't know. Kind of sad news there. But what are you going to do? We can't expect Microsoft to keep the store open indefinitely and forever, unless we all want to just pay for it out of our own pockets, out of the kindness of our heart, which we all don't want to. So, unfortunately, sorry to hear. It sounds like a bad deal. There seems like there's still quite a few people out there playing on the 360 store. So,
yeah,
Nick, what about you, man? I know you're the biggest retro player out of all of us.
Yeah, I looked at that list of the digital games. I know a lot of those games are on other things. So, I mean, that's good. But yeah, I mean, any store shutting down sucks regardless, right? And it sucks for being able to play those games, because they usually are cheaper on the store. As, kind of like what you were saying, Pat, about the game being $200 and something, if you want to go pick it up at a retro conference or retro store or something like that. But if you go out on the marketplace, it's usually like $20 for it, right? And the same thing with the Wii U. I remember going out there and Metroid Prime Trilogy. If you want to buy that physical, it's expensive. It's not a cheap game to buy I think it's around like $100 or something like that just to buy it. I'm just ballparking here. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's not cheap. But on the Wii U store, it was like $20 to buy that digitally, right? So that's a better route to go, especially if you really want to play the game, but you don't want to spend an exorbitant amount on it. So it sucks when these stores close out. You know, I turned on my Wii U the other day and I started to go towards the store because I was like, it might be something. And I'm like, oh yeah, that store is no longer there. I'm like, dang. Because I did buy like some games that I wanted, because there were games that I wanted, and I did buy a few, but I didn't get to buy all of them before the store shut down, right? And it would be the same for this 360, but the biggest thing is game preservation, right? And being able to go back to these things and being able to download these games and stuff. I know you can still do that with the games that you purchase, but you know, being able to relive the store or find things to purchase. And I understand from Microsoft's perspective and Nintendo's perspective and Sony's perspective, you know, they have to pay to maintain these servers, and so they can only do so for so long, right? But like Pat said, it still does bother me for future console releases because, like Shane said, you know, for the Xbox, I have a huge digital library, but you know, what if 10 years down the line, they decide the Xbox One store is closed, right? And then now all these are gone. I mean, you can still re-download them, but I can't go and get other things that I want, or, you know, or what if it gets to the point where you can't re-download them anymore, right? I mean, there's going to be a time where that's going to be the case, where you're not going to be able to re-download these games. That hasn't happened yet, but just give it time and it will. And like Pat said as well, you know, diskless consoles. I'm going to put this out here for everybody. You know, it's a hot take, but I think that diskless consoles will be here sooner than you think.
Next generation. I have no doubt.
Quite possibly. If it's not next generation, it will 100% for sure be the one after that. But, you know, and you think, well, that's like 20 years or something. Yeah. But I mean, that's, you know, it doesn't take long to get through for 20 years to go by.
No,
unfortunately, it doesn't take long for any amount of time to go by. So the next thing you know, it's like, you're not worrying about it today, but then you blink and next thing you know, it's however much time later. And that's no longer the case. Right. So you've got to handle those things now. Another thing to take into consideration for those listening, if you're a retro game collector and you like retro games, like Shane said, 360 games are pretty cheap at the moment. But once that store closes and leading up to that, these 360 games will become more and more expensive, right? Because that's the only way you're going to be able to get them. And so much like Wii U games and 3DS games and stuff like that, just give it time and those games will become expensive, even though a lot of the 360 games are on PS3. So, you know, there's more than one way to get it. They are going to get more expensive. So if you're a collector, it's like now's the time to go out and collect what you want because you're going to get it for a good price, other than, you know, a few years down the line where that copy of whatever is now like 3 times as much. It'll be great for you know, a couple of years down the line when it is 3 times that much, but you don't want to pay that a price a couple of years down the line because you saw it in the store for $5 and said, and now it's like $200, right? That happens with a lot of old games, especially as games get older and older. Depending on the game, their prices will get higher and higher, right? So just something, you know, something to think about.
Yep. You got to think about it now, because if you don't, it's going to be too late. Before you know, its time is cropped up on you when they're shutting it down. Like, I mean, the 360 store shutting down is, I mean, I don't know how many people saw it coming, but I mean, it was inevitable. But
yeah.
And I agree with you that the games are going to go up in price, right? Because now they're like, oh, we don't have to contend with the store anymore. That $20 game on the 360 store is going to go back up to a $50 game in the box if you want it, right? Because that's the only way you can get it now. And obviously, right, the more rare the game, the more expensive it's going to be. Sometimes even the more popular the game, the expensive it can be, because people hold on to the copies they have. Or if you find a new in-box copy or something, or a complete in-box copy. Back
It's
in
like
the day,
Super
we still got
Mario
manuals.
Brothers. Yeah, it's like Super Mario Brothers 3 on the NES. That game is overly priced for some reason. I think, and I think it's for what Pat said. It's popularity, right? It's not a hard game to find. You go to any retro store around your area that has retro games or a retro conference or something, and everyone and their mom is going to have a copy of Super Mario Brothers 3, but everyone and their mom will sell that copy for $30-$40 when that game really should. It's a great game, don't get me wrong, but it really is only worth like $5, right?
Yeah, and heaven forbid if you want a complete in-box copy, you're going to spend close to $200 for it.
Right. But that game's not rare. I mean, I remember seeing that game at a retro store, and they were selling it for like, I think $30 or $40, but they had 3 copies sitting on top of each other. I'm like, well, then it's not that rare, is it? And when I got my copy of the game, I got it for super cheap because someone was actually selling it for what it's worth, which is not a lot. They just do it because of popularity and stuff. So you got to really watch yourself when you're trying to buy old games and stuff, because some people try to screw you over on the price.
Yeah. Like, what did we just see at the retro store? The guy wanted like $1,000 for the game, and he had 3 copies sitting on his shelf at the Mo Game Con. I was like, he wanted $1,000 a copy, and I can't remember what the game was, but he had 3 copies sitting there together.
Oh yeah.
Now they were rare games. They were rare games, but he wanted 3 copies, and they were $1,000 each. And I'm like,
yeah,
God.
I know he wanted Chrono Trigger. He wanted $1,000. It was in box, and the box was in phenomenal shape.
Yeah,
but.
I don't care if it was in Carmen Electra's box. I'm not paying $1,000 for it. That's freaking ridiculous.
Yeah, but you're not who it's marketed for. My whole thing with that is that if you want to sell something at a premium, at least make me think that it's a little bit more, at least try to pull the wool over my eyes a little bit. Don't put all 3 copies out in front and display. Put a copy out when you sell that one, then you pull another one out from behind the thing,
Exactly.
Just flaunt it in front of my face. Here's 20 copies of Super Mario Brothers 3, complete in box, $150 each. And I'm like, but you got 20 copies sitting there. How could it be worth $120 or $150 or anything like that? And like Nick said, it's people are selling it, just a loose cart for $40 all the time. And you're like, you go through and open up a box of them, and they have like 10 of them or 3 or 5 or something in a row. And you're like, this is a $10 game. Not a $40 game.
Right. And that copy of Chrono Trigger, it's like, again, in box, yeah, I can understand it being a little pricier. But again, it's much like Super Mario Brothers 3, Chrono Trigger is not a hard game to find. I think every time I've gone to a retro store, they have a copy or 2 of Chrono Trigger, either in the box or out of the box. So again, it's not a difficult game to find. It's just, it's based on popularity, right? It's a super popular game. I mean, it's still one of the greatest, 16-bit era RPGs to this day. So it's based on popularity in that sense, kind of like Super Mario Bros. 3. Then scarcity, right? It's not. There are some NES games that are scarce, right? You don't hardly ever see a copy of those. But those particular ones I mentioned, the NES game and the Super NES game, they're not that rare they're not that scarce, I should say, to find.
Right. Yeah. Scarcity and rarity are the 2 things that drive the price up, right? You can get a game that's super obscure and not very popular, or not very, not very hard to, it's rare because they didn't make a lot of copies, but it wasn't very popular. But that thing will sell for $300 or $400, whereas something that's popular and not rare will sell for $100, and you're just like, wow. I remember when that came out and it was $50 or $40 or $60, and that's what the 360 is going to happen. They're going to be 360 games that you're going to go out today and you're going to be like, that was $10 from Vintage Stock or wherever you buy your retro stuff from, or local retro store. And then that's going to be a $40 game before long. And you're like, what happened? Well, the 360 store shut down. That's what happened.
Right. So, it is what it is. The 360 is just the next one in line to shut down. We're going to see more and more stores shut down as things continue. The PS3 store, it got delayed, but that will eventually shut down. That's still in Sony's plans. So it's not like they're like, all right, we'll just not shut it down. They are going to, Same thing with the Vita. If that store is not shut down, it will be at some point. I think the Vita did close. I think it was the PSP.
I thought the PS3 and the Vita store were what they walked back on, but they made it like difficult to buy from. Like there's
Vita,
like a bunch of
Vita and
manipulation.
PS3.
Those are the ones
yeah.
they walked back on. Yeah.
Yeah. But they're like,
they are more difficult to
severely
buy
restricted.
from. Yeah. Cause you can't like add a card to the store. You have to like do it through their website. Then you can go on the store and buy or something like that, if I remember correctly. But the Wii U did the same thing. Whenever they were on the way of shutting the store down. So they may have walked back, Sony may have walked back those, but those will get shut down eventually, right? Sony might give it a couple more years and they're like, okay, now we're finally shutting it down no matter what you say. So, you know, will the Xbox get pushed back for this one? They might, and they might decide to delay it, but I highly doubt it. I don't know. There might not be as many people playing 360 or nostalgic for the 360 store as maybe the PS3 store and the Vita store. I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, we'll see, right? What they end up doing. There's a spider. Sorry, I kill it.
I was like, he's giving himself an applause.
But yeah, we'll see. But it does suck for game preservation. And, you know, like we said, a look to the future. You know, this is going to happen more and more. And we really got to start thinking about game preservation and what happens with our digital collections as time goes on. Mm-hmm. But do you guys have anything else you want to add to this?
No, I just, you know, if you got a 360 and only a 360, sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's time to upgrade. But if you do have a 360 and there is stuff on the store, you have about almost a year to go out there and purchase what you want, but you better get to it and get out there and get what you want. So that way you can continue to play it after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, well, thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notifications to stay up to date with new videos that we do all the time. As well, in the comments, let us know what you think. What do you think about the store closing? What do you think about the future of store closures and digital games and the digital game future? You know, let us know down in the comments below. But other than that, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
See ya.